The salon audience liked hunting scenes in the woods, but when Courbet did them, they were real, they were savage. The extra brutality is Courbet's realism. In his 1867 painting of a stag being attacked by hunting dogs, everything's violent. Even the glare of the snow is like an explosion, and the dogs are like blasts in the white. Here he is, painting it in a photo from the time. Only the doomed stag is in place. Meaning is about to rush in everywhere else. Today, people assume Impressionism, because it's lovely, comes from lovely times. In fact, the world was just as horrible then as it is now.
In 1870, after 20 years in power, the emperor foolishly decided to start a war with Prussia, which France quickly lost. The emperor abdicated and a new French government was elected. It was based in Versailles, about 40 miles outside of Paris. This government surrendered to the Prussians, but Paris refused to give up, and as the next year came round, it went on refusing. It formed its own breakaway government, the Paris Commune. This was the 1871 Commune, as opposed to the 1848 one, but had the same left-wing aims: an end to exploitation, democracy, equality, and no more religion. The Prussians sieged the city, they bombarded it and cut off all supplies. The food ran out, bombs were falling, people were eating cats and dogs and rats, and then the Versailles government decided to send in the French army to break up the commune.
Paris is burning. It's a civil war. What's Courbet doing down there? He's made a commune leader. He says artists will now run all art institutions. He abolishes the judges and juries at the salon. Blimey, what on earth's he going to do next?
We still don't know if it was his idea as Commissioner of Art under the Commune to pull down the Vendôme column in Place Vendôme, something like Nelson's column in Trafalgar Square. But somebody ordered it, and it was assumed to be him.
Enormous chunks of the column fell neatly in a line. The old order coming down.
The Commune reigned until the end of May, and then what became known as the Week of Blood began. Versailles troops retook Paris, street by street, massacring as they went. The communards killed about 1,000 people, but the government troops killed 30,000 communards and suspected communards, men and women. They lined them up behind public buildings and in cemeteries and parks and gardens, and they executed them. They ran out of ways to do it. They ended up using Gatling guns. It was a massacre of the poor by the powerful, an incredible slaughter. It really gave anyone who wanted to ask for a bit of equality and democracy from now on a lesson in what to expect. Courbet was arrested. Everyone knew he'd been agitating for a while for the Vendôme column to be pulled down because he disagreed with its symbolism. It stood for France's military victories of the past. So he must have led the revolutionary rioters who destroyed it.
No, that's wrong, Courbet claimed in his defence. And this photo really does show Courbet's actual trial. He said he'd been busy protecting artworks in the Louvre from being looted by conservative art administrators who'd been sacked by the Commune. He was given 6 months in prison and fined 500 francs. This doesn't seem too bad. But 2 years later, an even more right-wing government comes in, and Courbet is retried. And this time his punishment is to pay the full costs of reconstructing the Vendôme column, which he knows will ruin him and make him a state slave for the rest of his life. He exiled himself to Switzerland and lived there. In 1877, at the age of 58, Courbet died of alcoholism. His body retained so much liquid in the months before he died that at his death, his waist measured 55 inches. That enormous body rotted in Switzerland for 100 years before the bones were brought back here to the cemetery in Ornans. Courbet gives to Impressionism rough surfaces and being against the salon, being for truth and against lies. But you can't have Impressionism without colour, which is the force our next artist, Edouard Manet, stands for. Prepare to be colorized after the break. Welcome back. Impressionism is coming along now. Courbet and Manet are its two big precursors. Here are some paintings by Manet. Courbet's reality is his own sensuality. Manet's take on the sensual is colour. Manet releases colour from being an add-on and makes it something in itself. Not only something, but the main thing. This is black, but its shape, its dominance, its relation to the other shapes means black is not just an absence, but a positive force. Manet never allows you to think, oh, it's a painting of so-and-so. He's always waking you up to how the component parts of a painting operate, how they work. Manet is high class. He's cool, not passionate, posh, not from the country. He couldn't be more opposite to Courbet. To tell Manet's story, we have to go back to the 1860s when Napoleon III was still emperor.
Manet's career only lasted 20 years, from the early 1860s to the early 1880s. In that time, Paris was modernized. It was completely transformed from a stinking load of winding medieval streets with a few staggering palaces rising up out of the muddle to a gleaming, streamlined, modern city.
The rules of bourgeois life are set up in Manet's time. We still obey the main one now, which is that the compensation for never asking for true freedom and true happiness is great latherings of escapism and consumerism. This all started with Napoleon III in the 1860s.
The emperor knows that he can't just aristocratically ignore the workers and the new rising bourgeoisie. He has to skillfully manipulate them and subtly oppress them instead. So as well as new architecture, new avenues and squares and new venues of grand spectacular events, like the brand new opera house, which is the great cultural achievement of the new regime, there's a new attitude as well, a new spirit, one of pleasurable consumerism, where you're encouraged to stop worrying about politics and learn to buy things and be entertained.
Authoritarianism reigns, but is masked by economic prosperity, the look of progress, and new types of modern fun. It's the age of the arcades, newly built pleasure places, passages off the main streets where you can go and buy things, new consumer objects, new fashion gear. Manet is excited by the modern too, but he doesn't want it to be all lies. He thinks the truth of colour is the answer. The poet Baudelaire calls Manet the painter of modern life. Give us a sense of the beauty of the art of the past with the gods and so on in their robes, Baudelaire says, but give us vivid modernity instead of misty classicism. Show everyone how beautiful we are in our boots and cravats. That's exactly what Manet comes up with, the modern going by in a beautiful, luminous, transparent, liquid blur.